Today, we're going to talk to you about how to start your business legally in 2023. Hey gang, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jim. If you're new here, I am a lawyer turned YouTube entrepreneur. Well, actually, I'm still a lawyer. I do trademarks. That's a whole nother story. That's not what you care about. You're here to learn about how to start a business legally in 2023. I'm doing this video today because it's been a hot minute since I've talked about the things that you need to do to set up your business legally, and things have changed somewhat in the past several years since I last did a video like this. So as I'm recording this video, it is right now the middle of January 2023, and we just passed the new year. And some of you might be thinking, gosh, I really would like to start that business that I've been thinking about starting for 1, 2, 3, however many years you've been thinking about starting a business. You've got something in the back of your mind that you want to do, and you're like, man, I just need to get to it. So today's video, I'm going to share with you kind of how you do that and make sure you do it in a legal sort of way. Legal-ish sort of way. And the reason I think this is important is because I've talked to a lot of potential clients and clients over the years, and one of the things that constantly gets them in the way of themselves trying to start a business is they're worried that they're not going to set it up the right way. They're worried they're going to do something wrong, they're going to do something illegal, they're going to get sued. And they want to make sure that that doesn't happen to them. I mean, when you're just getting started in business, the likelihood of something bad happening, really the worst thing that could happen is you don't do anything at all, and then your business never gets off the ground. But once you've been in business for a little bit of time, it's really important that you have that proper legal foundation in place from the very beginning. And so you want to make sure, you're doing things like having the proper legal foundation in terms of a business entity. You want to make sure that you pick the right name, that nobody else is using your name, or that you're not using somebody else's name, I should say. You want to make sure that you've got the proper insurance in place. And so we're going to be talking about all those issues and much more in today's video, because this is the type of stuff that you really need to know if you're just getting started in business. And hopefully the way I talk about it and the way I am teaching this to you really resonates with you, and you take action to actually get started doing your business, because that's the whole goal. That's why you're watching this video. So real quick, if you're wondering who I am actually a trademark lawyer. I'm an online business lawyer. I've worked with a lot of online entrepreneurs to help them start their business the right way. And so I kind of have a pretty unique skill set in what online business is all about and what business in general is all about. I've started 2 businesses of my own. Well, actually more than that, but two businesses that are still running and successful, I should say. So I kind of understand what this is all about in terms of starting a business. And so, which leads me to the first thing that you need to do when you're just getting started, and that's you need to at least establish some sort of plan. Now, I'm not suggesting, and I see so many people, students in my OB Foundations group, clients I've talked to, potential clients I've talked to, they get in their own way because they try so hard to plan out their business. They're worried that they're going to make a mistake, that they're going to pick the wrong market, that nobody's going to buy what they have to sell. And so they just don't do anything. So it's really important that you start by doing a little bit of planning. And what do I mean by that? I don't mean you need to spend a year or 2 or 3 creating a big, long business plan that you're going to be presenting to angel investors. That's not what I'm talking about. Unless you actually do plan on presenting to angel investors, in which case you probably should not be watching this video. You probably should be talking to some sort of professional that deals with that. Some of the things that you need to be thinking about are number one, what are you going to sell? What's your business going to be about? What's the market that you're going to get into? Who are you going to sell your products or services to? What does that audience avatar look like? So I'm in a coaching group right now, and my coach just asked us for the month of January to really develop a one-page document that really talks about who my client is and who I want to help with my law firm business. And so that's what you really need to do. You need to get in the mind of your potential customers and think about who it is that would buy your product and why do they want your product versus buying somebody else's product. And then along those lines, how are you going to find those people? How are you going to connect with and develop relationships with those potential clients or customers so that they're going to know you, like you, and trust you enough to actually give you money? That's the second thing you need to be really concerned about. And then finally, the last thing I would say in terms of the planning stage is, are there competitors in your field? And what do I mean by that? I mean, if you're the only person in your field that's trying to sell this thing, unless you came up with a brand new product that nobody else ever been on the market with before, that's not good. You need to make sure that there are other people, at least when you're just getting started in business, make sure there's other people that are selling what you want to sell, and then find a way to distinguish yourself, because you want to make sure there's already a market for your goods or services. If there's no market for your goods and services, well, then, I mean, it's going to be really hard to develop a brand new market unless you have a really novel idea. And I would say 99.9% of businesses that are just getting started for the first time don't have that novel idea. Which leads us to step number 2, and that's you need to pick a brand name for what it is that you're going to be selling. And now this doesn't have to be final. This doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be something that, that you're leveraging a lot of money with, but let's just think about this practically speaking. If in the back of your mind you already have the name of your brand and and you've got like a really good name that you really thought hard about. I can think of a client that I'm working with, a trademark client that I'm working with right now, that we did the call and he told me the name that they wanted to use, and it was like immediately obvious to me that that was an awesome name for what it was that they're selling. And so if you already have that name in mind, then you definitely want to do some searching to see if it's available with the USPTO website. You want to go and do some searches on Google to see if the name is available. You want to see, go to a website like namecheap.com. That's where I buy all my domains from, and see if there's a domain name available for that name. You want to check all the social media channels to see if the name is available on social media, and just see if anybody else is using that name. And if not, then you probably want to take some steps to start protecting that name, even if you're not selling anything yet. So that leads us to step number 3, and that's to either file your trademark application or set up an LLC. Now I give this an either or because a lot of people like to set up their LLC before they file their trademark. That way the LLC is actually owning the trademark, which is the right way to do it. However, if you decide, if money's tight and you're like, I just need to pick one, and you're thinking either LLC or trademark, I typically would go with the trademark first. And the reason being that it takes a long time for your trademark to go through the trademark process. You want to make sure that nobody else is using that name. You want to make sure that nobody jumps in and sees that you're doing something on social media or with a blog or something like that after you start publishing what it is that you're going to be selling, and they don't jump in and try and steal your name. And also, you just want to sleep better knowing that nobody is actually using the name that you want to use, and that nobody's going to send you a cease and desist letter in 3 or 4 years after your businesses, happen and tell you to shut everything down. So you want to make sure that doesn't happen. So if you're trying to decide between going with the trademark first or going with the LLC first, really, like I said, if money's tight, go with the trademark first. But if you have enough money to invest in your business and you can afford to do both, then I would recommend setting up the LLC first and then using that to actually own the trademark for your brand. Now, when it comes to filing a trademark application, this is a really complicated thing to do. I would recommend that you talk with a lawyer about that if you're thinking about filing your own trademarks. I've also done videos here on the channel that talk more in depth about what it takes to file your own trademark application, mistakes you can make in the process, things of that sort. So definitely make sure to check out those videos at a minimum, or consult with me or another lawyer if you're thinking about getting your trademarks registered. Now, in terms of the LLC, you can absolutely do the LLC on your own. I'll include a link down below to my preferred vendor for setting up your own LLC. Also, my office does LLCs for people as well, typically as part of the trademark process. That's something that you can very easily do on your own, except for in a handful of states where it kind of gets a little bit tricky when you're setting up the LLC. So as long as you're not in one of those states, and you'll know if you're in one of those states, because you'll start the process and you'll be like, wait a minute, this is getting a little bit out of hand, and this is way more than I had bargained for here when I thought I was just going to be filing some paperwork with the state. So you'll know. And if that's the case, just reach out to me, or like I said, we've got some service providers that I recommend down in the description below. So once you have your LLC in hand, it is time to go and get your EIN number. There are lots of videos, I'm sure, online about how to do this. It's very easy. You go to the IRS website, that's irs.gov. It takes about 5 minutes. You can apply. Make sure you have a business address. I should have mentioned this. This is probably a step actually I should put before you either file for your trademark or before you file for your LLC. And that is, you need to establish a business address. And I would typically recommend, sorry, something in my eye there. On days like today, like video days, those are the days where I wear my contacts, and I actually hate wearing my contacts. They make my eyes really dry and itchy, and I typically get stuff in them and it's not good. Anyway, so I probably should have put this as a step that you use actually before you set up the LLC, and that is that you want to make sure that you have a business address. Now, the reason you're going to do this, you could use your home address. That's perfectly fine if you're renting space from someplace for business purposes like a Regis or an Office Suites Plus or someplace like that. Also fine to use that as your business address, but if you are going to be working from home, as a lot of you are likely to be doing, then you definitely want to make sure you snag a virtual address. Again, I'll include a link down below to a service that I use and love for my virtual address while I'm living here in Portugal. They're great. They will scan in my mail, they will email it to me, and if I need something, they forward it to me, and provided we can make it through the mail system here in Portugal, I will get it. It does take a little bit of time, but I will get it in the mail. And so that's a really great service, and that's something that I would encourage you to think about. You also could use a post office box if you wanted to. Problem with the post office box is you have to actually, get out and get the mail, like at least once or twice a week. And I don't know, personally, I didn't like doing that. One more errand to run that just bothered me. So it was worth it to me to pay a little bit extra money to have my mail scanned. And in the case of living in Portugal, I really don't have an option. I need to have it scanned and emailed to me. Actually, they've got an app that notifies me whenever I've got new mail. So that's kind of cool. That was kind of a tangent. Let's get back to what we were talking about. I think what we were talking about is, let me check my notes. Oh yeah, getting your EIN number. So you'll need that address to get your EIN number, also to set up your LLC and for your trademark. So you want to go back a few steps before and get that virtual address. Now, something I'll say about the EIN number is, even if you have decided that you want to be a sole proprietor, in other words, you don't want to register as an LLC with your state or a corporation, it's still a good idea to get an EIN number. It's not required, but it's a really good idea because it's going to segregate your income and your assets for the business from the income and the assets of your person. And it'll help when you're setting up a business bank account to have that separate EIN number for the business and a separate tax ID number for your personal bank accounts. And you don't want to commingle those things. That's like a really bad thing to do. You definitely don't want to do that. So I would highly recommend you get that EIN number. Like I said, it only takes a couple minutes. If you go to a website where you try to apply for it and they ask you to pay for something, then it probably wasn't the IRS website. It probably was a service, and it's free. You definitely shouldn't have to pay for that. Now, mind you, if you use a service to set up your LLC, they may charge you to obtain that as well. And I would say 90% of the time it goes through without a hitch when you're applying online. There are some cases where things don't match up and they need you to mail in some paperwork or fax in some paperwork to the IRS. But most of the time it works pretty good. The only other issue could be if you live out of the United States and you're trying to start a business in the United States and you don't have a tax ID number or a social security number, then you're going to actually have to jump through a couple extra hoops to get that EIN number for your business. And that's probably something you want to hire somebody to help you do. There are specialists out there that will help foreigners to get tax ID numbers. So let's see. All right, before we move to the next thing, my mouth's getting a little dry, so I'm gonna go with my favorite Portuguese mug today for a little Portuguese coffee. Little Portuguese coffee. Oh, and I should have showed you, although we still have a little price tag on it. Anyway, my wife, we got some cute little Portuguese tiles here also. They even say Portugal on the side as places to put our cups down on, so that's kind of cool. So as I was editing today's video, I realized it was 30 minutes long, 30, and that's way too long for a video talking about how to start a business legally. So I decided what I would do is I would chunk it up into 2 videos. So this was part 1. You can see part 2 by clicking right over here. Thanks, folks. Have a great day.